Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, aka BGFH, and I'm back for kind of another event update video. I know I just did one of these just a few days ago for GAConf, Game Accessibility Conference 2019, but a lot has happened around the same time, and since then, and I figured, yeah, let's just do another quick one of these bonus videos, so we'll just jump right into it here. I'll start with all the Apple stuff, both the stuff that happened last week and this week. So last week we had a bunch of hardware updates or hardware refreshes. We got an iPad Air update, iPad Mini update, AirPods updates, Mac, one of their iMac updates, just basically spec bumps, which is not a bad thing. I know a lot of people like the iPad Mini for its smaller size, makes things really kind of portable. The one kind of really dumb thing that I think they did with that is there's a lot of confusion now because you have 5 different iPad models. You have the two Pros, the two big Pros. You have whatever the 2018 iPad is, or the new iPad. Then you have the two minis. Some of them support the new Pencil. Some of them, like the new ones just announced, the two minis, or the Mini and the Air, only support the old Pencil, which, again, you talk about Android being fragmented. Apple's getting just as weird and crazy, and they're just like, we want to cover every market available, and I don't know how well we're doing it, but I don't know. If I was getting something for my parents, I could probably get by with the Air or the 2018 Mini. I would probably end up getting the Air for them, actually, if I was going to do that, if I hadn't given them my older Pro last fall. But, so there's some decent hardware upgrades there. I'm not really going to be buying any of them right now, so you won't be seeing any of those on the channel. The AirPods just don't interest me all that much. I've talked about that before, them possibly falling out of my ears, or I don't know. I don't like earbuds either in general, so they just don't appeal to me at all. So we had the hardware last week. Then Apple had its keynote this week, today, as I'm recording this. Now, I missed out on the first couple of minutes because I was actually on a work phone call, but it didn't really seem like I missed too much. And basically, again, we pretty much knew what we were going to be getting. They first talked about their News update, because now you have News Plus, which is a $10 a month subscription, basically. And the nice thing is they've added magazines, so it's kind of it seems like an all-you-can-eat kind of a magazine, and then you have a couple of other, the Wall Street Journal and the LA something or other. You get those in there as well. Magazines could potentially be interesting if they are voiceover accessible. I know I've tried some magazine apps in the past, and I've tried to contact, let's say, PC Gamer, and they have not gotten back to me. I wanted to ask if their publication was accessible, and no one ever really got back to me on it, so they lost out on a subscription. I don't know if that's going to be part of the Apple News Plus thing. And it's out now. You can get it, a free month of it. I don't know if I'll look into it or not. I have so many other things to keep up with. I don't know that a $10 news subscription is really worth my time. But, if you're into news, you can potentially look into that now. Speaking of now, we do have the new iOS update, which I am in the process of putting on my personal phone, personal iPad, and my work phone, since I have a decent connection here. Working on that. I got my personal phone updated already. Got the other two working on it right now. So I don't really know. I'm hoping that maybe there'll be some voiceover fixes. I really, really, really wish they would fix that focus issue where stuff just kind of, you touch on something and then it just jumps around. There's a Braille input oddity that I discovered a month or two ago that I reported that also I would love to see squashed. But the way they are not really paying attention to user feedback, especially even if you're in like a beta, which I am not currently, but when I was reporting, in the iOS 12 beta and reporting a lot of bugs, they really didn't seem to take into much, if any, of the feedback, and I never got any response back or anything. And then you have something like Microsoft, who is just like killing it right now. User feedback, you got these user groups. I'm part of this low vision advisory group thing. And the changes, like I said, some of the changes and bugs that I've suggested or reported for fixes, they've been done, and it's fantastic. So, I don't know. Apple's got to get their crap together, guys. I mean, there's stuff I really like about their iOS platform, but there's stuff that really frustrates me, too. So, yeah, they're news stuff. Then they went into this Apple Card, as it were, which is primarily a digital credit card. It has some interesting things about it. They said no fees, like no annual fees, no late fees, no other whatever fees. I had a laugh at Ranger's tweet after the show I saw. You got to go look up. I retweeted it because it was hilarious, but it was something like, oh yeah, well, no fees. Yeah, just we want it easy for you to keep buying your stuff. Put the stuff in the bag, and no one will get hurt. It was just pretty funny. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of about sums it up. But their card, no fees. They call it, what did they call it? Daily cash, where instead of getting points towards stuff, you basically earn 2 points for your electronic card purchases. If you use your Apple Card online and elsewhere. If you use it for Apple-specific things, you get 3% cash reward, and these are all right away. And then they made a point of, if you go somewhere that Apple Pay is not supported, they briefly showed this weird video showing them basically engraving your name into the real credit card that doesn't actually have any numbers or expiration dates or anything on it. It's just this kind of bare bones white looking card, and I guess the information is in the wallet app, they were saying. But you will have a physical card, but you're only going to be making 1% cash back, or daily cash as they put it that way. So I don't know. I want to know what kind of catches there are. It seemed okay, if you buy a lot of stuff from the App Store, if you just kind of use it, and then, like, for me, I would just use it and then, basically pay it off right away, just to basically keep my credit and earn a few dollars here and there for cash back. I don't know. It's not the worst thing in the world that I would consider. But again, it just depends on how many gotchas they put in it. And they said you can also do, they kind of make it easier for you to see, like, not just focusing on minimum payment due. So, like, they're like, oh, we want you to pay off your stuff as quickly as can. So we have flexible payment options, and you can actually pay every week or every 2 weeks or whatever. So I don't know. Potentially if you live in the credit card lifestyle, yeah, I don't know. And if you're into the Apple ecosystem, it might not be such a bad thing. Like I said, I have to look further into it to really know for sure. But like personally, I've been in debt before. I've talked about it on the channel. After I graduated college, I was so poor that I was using credit cards to basically pay my rent monthly bills because I really had no other way while I was looking for work, and that sucked. So since I've dug myself out of the hole, I've kind of really adopted this, at least for pretty much as I can. I've adopted this no credit cards used thing. I've got a couple. They're not even really activated or anything. But they're there if I absolutely need them. I don't really want to use credit cards per se, My credit is great so far, so, we're good there. But I don't know. I don't really, if I don't have the money, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna go try to get something that I don't have money for. And I'm not looking to buy a home or anything like that now, or so like a giant expense like that where you pretty much have to do something, take out a loan or use a card or something. So I don't know. Will I do it? I don't know. Not likely, but I haven't ruled it out. If I can earn a few bucks here and there, might be okay. Then they went into their TV stuff, and again, pretty much what we thought it was going to be. Not a whole lot of original programming. They're taking the Apple TV or the I forget even what basically the TV app. They're basically giving it a facelift, adding more things. They call it Apple Channels, and so just like Amazon has done before, I think other places have done before. Now you can get Showtime and HBO and all these other channels as a subscription right in one place. Which, I don't know. If you save some money, I don't know what the rates for those are going to be, but I'm guessing they're going to be like $10 a pop. So you're basically going to be, you can pay it all in one place, but, you're still going to have these add-on fees, kind of a thing, but it's, just basically trying to keep people in their ecosystem, but, make it easier to watch whatever you want to watch across whatever services, Hulu and YouTube and HBO, Showtime, all that kind of stuff. Oddly, Netflix wasn't really mentioned, though, so that's still going to be a separate app for now, at least from what I can tell. They also talked about them putting their services, of course, on all their devices, Apple TV, phone, tablet. It's coming to the Mac this fall. They're actually putting it on smart TVs, Roku, and Amazon devices as well. Although no Windows was mentioned, so not quite everywhere yet. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's okay, but I kind of have my own system. I do have some Amazon stuff here. I've got Netflix. From time to time, I'll check out Hulu. I haven't really done a whole lot else, but I can subscribe through Amazon or Apple. Depends on if the Apple one is actually more expensive. Like, are you because you're gonna take an extra, let's say 30% cut, are you going to do that on top of, like, let's say a $10 HBO subscription? I don't know the details of that, but I don't know. It's just, it is what it is. It's meh, take it or leave it, whatever. We pretty much knew what was going on already, so I don't really feel strongly either way. But it's, pretty much what we expected. The one potential thing that was kind of cool, I forgot to mention before we got into the TV, they mentioned a new service coming out later this fall called Apple Arcade. Now, this is, again, everybody's trying to do this monthly service thing. You got the Google Stadia thing, which I'm going to talk about shortly. You have Microsoft thinking about announcing something. You've got God only knows who else. We'll probably see more of this, a lot more at E3. Sony's probably got something in the works for all I know. But this Apple Arcade, it's basically you pay a set fee. We don't know how much yet. But they said you're going to have like 100 games to start with, and you pay the subscription fee. You can download them, you can play them offline. There's no ads, there's no extra downloadable content or microtransactions, which, if the right games are in there, that might have some appeal. If you can get let's say even if you play a good, couple dozen, games, or maybe you play a few games pretty steadily month to month, it might be, and then you can always have the option to check out other titles. it could be okay. I mean, honestly, the main thing that I am getting so sick of, and I know I've said it before, and I'm sounding like a broken record. I know, but just I can't count the number of cool gameplay concepts that I've seen or even tried, only to be thwarted by, oh, you have 3 different kinds of currencies, 2 of which you need real money to actually pay for. Or you get, oh, you can only do this, but you can play for 5 minutes, and then you have to wait an hour for a meter to fill up, and then you can play for another 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes. Or you get both. You have the 3 different currencies plus, and then you have timers, and then you have, or you can spam your friends and, annoy the hell out of them, and maybe you get a few bonus currencies. Not enough to still. Not enough really to the point where you don't have to spend real money, but it just, everything's about the bottom line, and it's just, whether it's games or even stuff I'm doing at work, my day job, like everything's about the bottom line. Oh, we got to make the feds happy. We gotta work our spreadsheets, or, games. It's like, oh, we gotta, maximize, I got to think of it like a stupid business presenter. We got to maximize profit potential by synergizing our whatever to. Oh, it's just so freaking obnoxious. Just let me play your damn game, please. I'll be happy to pay you for it, but just, stop bending us over every 2 minutes for more money, And I don't know, maybe this arcade thing, at least if there's some good titles in there, I don't know, maybe it'll be worth looking into. Maybe they'll have a trial. So I'm sure we'll find out more about that at WWDC. They said they're not launching it till fall, which indicates to me it'll probably be an iOS 13 thing, either at iOS 13 launch or shortly thereafter. So, honestly. And it does also support family sharing, so you could actually subscribe, and then if you had, a family, you had multiple kids or something, you could all work under that or play under that subscription. So there is some potential there, getting rid of ads, getting rid of some of this constant monetization and ugliness that's moved from mobile into infesting everything else, but I'll quit ranting there because believe me, I could rant about it for a while. So, I don't know, Apple Arcade might be something interesting to look into. But yeah, getting back to the TV stuff, you have their channels, you have their redesigned app. They had this video about, exclusive content, and it was one of the most boring, pretentious things I think I've seen in a while. I was honestly doing some work while I had this running, and I wasn't really paying attention to much of what they said, but it was like, oh, but imagine the story we can tell, and if you're there, or imagine if I could, smell the trees around me, and it's just, really, what does that have to do with a subscription? What are you even talking about? It just seemed really bizarre and pretentious, or just, I don't know, weird for the sake of being weird, I guess. I don't know. So presumably they are going to have some exclusive stuff because they have the upcoming, just like all their Plus things, they have an Apple TV Plus thing coming this fall with some original programming. And the 2 that they did talk a little bit about is they talked about there was some Sesame Street spinoff for kids, which, okay, for kids programming, sure, okay. It's not for me, of course, but hey, if you want to do that, go for it. And then they wrapped up their thing with this, I guess Oprah came on stage and she's working on 2 different documentaries, and that'll be coming at some point in the fall or thereafter. So those are really the only things that yes, I have to mention this. The one other one that they mentioned, and I don't remember what it's called, but I saw some tweets about it already. Something about there's this series or movie or something about basically the society where this contagion if infected the whole world, and its side effect was that they everyone lost their vision. So experience the world. Could you imagine what it would be like if you were blind and you couldn't see and you can't turn blindness off? And they actually said those types of things during that part of their presentation. It was a little, but yeah. So then they're like, everyone is blind, and after it's set so far after this has happened that people were even questioning, did people have vision at one time? Was that even a real thing? And then I saw people already tweeting about, oh, well, let me guess, it's all going to be about blind, blind people, but no actual blind actors. You're going to have sighted people portraying blind actors. And I see both sides. I mean, to be fair, there's not really, that I know of, there's not a lot of actual blind actors. But it's kind of a chicken and egg thing, It's like maybe there would be, but if you are blind, is that going to limit the amount of roles that people are going to accept you for? But you still, to be an actor, you have to get roles, you have to get parts. And on the other hand, I do think that, it would be nice to see an actual blind person being played by a blind, a blind person. But I mean, again, that's a thing of acting is, you have, let's say, an American playing a Brit, or you have, some other nationality playing somebody else doing a weird accent, and sometimes it works, sometimes it sounds really bad. So you have people, people playing different parts that they are not in real life. That's called acting, I guess. But I don't know. I don't get too hung up about it. I would like to see more actual blind and disability representation. You have somebody in a wheelchair, at the very, very least, do your homework and represent it well, represent it accurately when you can. But hire somebody. Like if somebody has some acting chops and you want to hire them, that would be great. Just like I would like to see more disability representation in games where disability is not the focus, but it's just another aspect of who we are. Just like somebody who is tall or short, has brown hair or blue eyes, or man, woman, and whatever. It's just another thing, but that doesn't happen too often. So I'm sure we're going to see a lot more on social media about that particular thing coming up. Honestly, that was really their event. Most of it we pretty much knew to some degree. Honestly, the arcade thing was probably the most interesting, not even because it was gaming, but just because we weren't really expecting it. And I like the idea of they're even trying to say that, hey, there's no microtransactions, no incessant ads. The credit card thing, I don't know. It might be okay. But we heard that was probably going to happen. So they got all their hardware stuff out of the way first. But honestly, a lot of their TV stuff was kind of boring, and admittedly, I wasn't paying attention to the vast majority of it because it was the people just rambling on about whatever it is they were rambling on about. Excuse me, but that's kind of the Apple event. A couple other things I did want to talk about. It's not just going to be an Apple thing, but this one's kind of related to Apple. I just wanted to touch on it. This part of the video may not be the most popular opinion, but I do still stand by it. I bring it up now just because it does relate to Apple. I saw a post on AppleViz last week, around the time that they had announced, oh, okay, hey, we're going to be doing this event and on the 25th and yada yada. And somebody had posted posted a thread on AppleViz asking, hey, do you think that it would be a good idea for Ira? I always forget it's Aria or Ira. I keep thinking of Aria, the web language, but it's Ira. That's paid service, subscription service, where you have sighted individuals assisting blind people via glasses or the phone app. But somebody asked, do they, should Apple hire them to make their sessions audio described, their presentations? And some people are like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And some people are like, nah, Apple should do it because, they have some familiarity with that and they know their events better than, a describer would. It's like, the describer might have some overall detail, but maybe miss some of the details that people would actually really want to know. And I can see both sides. But we kind of got more on this, or the thread kind of got more on this philosophical thing about Ira. And then I also listened to, they had a scheduled webinar last week about some of the Ira stuff. And, I don't think it's a bad service. There can definitely be value in it in certain situations, I think. Is it priced a little high? Yeah, I think it is, especially for maybe the amount of hours that you get or minutes that you get, or I don't know, it kind of seems like a high reoccurring rate. And, the traditional assistive technology model, I'm kind of over it. It sounded like what they were banking on is, Alexa, stop. I forgot I had that on. But they were on this model that, oh, well, this is for blind people, but it's not for blind people to pay for it. We're going to expect businesses or VR agencies or something like that to put up the bill. And I really wish that we were getting to a point, especially as, technologies become smaller, cheaper, more affordable, more ubiquitous, that these companies would actually, gear up for a larger market and sell to the individuals using it, getting some responsibility on the blind people using it and, having them actually be able to pay for a service on their own instead of creating this continuous dependence on government agencies and funding and whatever else. I mean, I get you're not going to totally get away from that because some of the stuff is just expensive and I don't know, some of it just you're still going to have that to a degree, and for some people who actually need it, absolutely. But the problem that I had with their webinar too was that they were talking like, oh, and this Ira thing, it's so good because it allows me independence for the first time, and now I'm able to read my mail or sort through receipts or do a lot of these things. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, you can do that, but a lot of the stuff that they were talking about in their webinar, I can totally do with a couple of different free apps on my phone. I can use the short text to quickly see the return addresses on my mail, or get the gist of a receipt and go, oh, this is my Best Buy receipt, or oh, this is my hotel receipt from GAConf, or whatever. Like, why do I have to pay a huge monthly fee for somebody to tell me something that I can probably do myself in about 10 seconds? And they part of me, it's kind of like a mixed message, because to me, the Aria thing, like I said, there are times where it could be really helpful, but I'm afraid they're going too far in the other direction to say like, oh, well, we're actually, if people use it the way you're saying, people aren't going to have the skills pretty soon. They're going to just go back to the, oh, well, I'll just have a sighted person handle everything for me. I'll have my sighted person in my pocket, and I won't know how to do anything on my own. Labeling something tactily in my kitchen, or, getting somewhere on my own, or being able to, use my phone or my computer to OCR a document. These are things where, you don't have to necessarily be dependent, but I think the way that they're focusing on it, it seems like you were going kind of backwards in a way. And, people are just going to depend on sighted assistance a lot more when they don't necessarily have to. That's why I just wanted to talk a little bit about Ira. Like I said, they talked about it about the Apple keynote, and they talked about it during, I listened to that webinar, and they were trying to sell it really, really hard. Obviously they want to sell it, they want people to use it, and I get that. But maybe a little patronizing. I don't know. Like I said, I think that it has some value in some situations, sure. But the current model and some of the way they're approaching it, I just think it's kind of almost going back to promoting dependence more. But that's just my opinion. Not going to end the video on a downer or kind of a controversial topic, as it were. I do briefly want to talk about what little we know about this Stadia thing. So Google last week, right around the time I was flying home from California last week, they had this event that was talking about their new Stadia service, this game streaming service, which is kind of intriguing, actually. I just want to know what it's going to be like in reality. We've had so many things like OnLive and some of these other game streaming services that have kind of been really hit and miss. But they're kind of taking it in an interesting direction. So everything is, of course, going to be kind of in the cloud. They're going to do a trial at some point later this year. But, they're using all these servers and stuff. Everything is going to be run locally on their end. So, you can potentially have a lot more going on, maybe larger scale multiplayer things, or you can have the highest fidelity graphics, because essentially all they're going to be pushing is the audio and video feed to you. The interesting thing that they talked about with their Stadia controller, though, was that you're actually going to be able to connect the controller via Wi-Fi directly to their service, which is kind of interesting when you think about it, because normally what you would do is you would Bluetooth your controller, or you would use some sort of wireless technology to connect it to your computer or a console or your phone or tablet, whatever. And then you would have your console, doing its lifting and then getting the information back to the cloud, the server where you're playing your game. So essentially they're trying to cut down on latency to say, okay, we're going to send your controller feedback directly to us, which should cut down on some latency, and then we'll just send you back the audio video to whatever device it is that you happen to be using, your phone, your computer, your tablet, your TV, your console, whatever you're using. I guess you theoretically are going to be able to use other third-party controllers the traditional way too. But again, we don't have a whole lot of details about it. I did read an article just last night that was talking about id Software was using it. One of their main show points for their presentation last week was they got id Software actually interested in it via Doom Eternal, the upcoming Doom sequel, which, if it can go as well as it, if it works as well as as they're claiming, Doom is a perfect game to try to test it, because that is a title where you are going to need no latency, or as little as possible, to be able to use this thing. You're going to need to be, you're spinning around, you're shooting dudes, you're jumping, you're just doing all kinds of crazy skill-based combat and movement. So whether it's single player or multiplayer, you're still going to need as low latency as possible, because that is a Twitch game if I've ever seen one. And I don't mean the Twitch streaming service. I mean fast-paced, twitchy combat. So if that actually works, that's a really solid test case. Like I said, Microsoft's going to be talking about some stuff at E3 with their streaming plan. There's already rumored that there's going to be some kind of a digital-only Xbox coming out in May, perhaps. Nothing official, but we've heard some stuff about it potentially. I don't know. You've got Apple doing the streaming thing today. You've got Google. You've got, I don't know, at least probably a couple others. The traditional games model, where you buy a physical disc or you download this big old 48 gig monstrosity, and that's being a small game. You download this half a terabyte thing just to be able to play a game. But then you got to figure out, if you are going to stream all this stuff, well, then you got to figure out bandwidth caps, and Comcast or whoever's going to want a piece of that. The next 5 years could be really interesting. I don't know if we are really going to shift, or if there's going to be, you're going to have the traditional model where you buy and download things for the, onto a powerful console or a powerful PC rig, for like, your hardcore, enthusiast group, and then you have everybody else who's like, yeah, I'll just stream it like I do Netflix or whatever, if the technology can be good enough. Because they said you need 25 megabits down minimum to be able to stream. I can't remember if that was at 1080p or 4K. I think it might have been a little bit lower than that, lower than 25 for 1080p. But even that, I'm a little, those numbers seem a little suspect to me. It just seems like you're going to have some hell of a compression rate to be able to do that. Because to me, that just seems really low, honestly, to get that kind of fidelity, that kind of quality. Maybe not. I don't know. But it's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see this Google Stadia thing. So I may, depending on what happens, I may be able to try to cover that somehow in the future. We will see. We have all, and then on top of that, you have all these other launchers. You have not just Steam and GOG, you have the Epic Store, you have the EA one, Origin, you've got, Bethesda's got its own thing. I mean, it's kind of splintering on the PC side of things, which in a way is kind of a good thing, because I definitely, as much as I use Steam and as much as I like the convenience of it, I think it does need some competition, because some of the stuff is getting a little sloppy Joe. It's getting a little bit messy. So, I don't know. Of course, a lot of them just got into it not terribly long ago, especially the Epic Store, so it's lacking even a lot of basic features. Hell, I think they just got the search functionality in their store like a week or two ago. So, yeah. It's just going to be a really interesting time, because the days of going to the store and getting a box with a complete game are long gone. Unless you buy maybe a first-party Nintendo game, the days even of getting a complete game on a disc or a cartridge are pretty much gone, because games are all live services. We need an 18 to 98 gig patch on day one just to be able to play the thing properly. So, yeah, I mean, there's good and bad to all of it, but, the Stadia thing is mixing things up. They already tried the Assassin's Creed thing within a browser last year, which seemed to work okay from what I heard. I never tried it, but it seemed to actually work okay. Japan was doing some streaming stuff, trying to stream games like Resident Evil 7 to the Switch in Japan. That never came out over here, but so people are playing with it, and I think it's going to become more of a thing. I just don't know. Like I said, we've definitely got to get the bandwidth situation figured out first, especially North America. We're so laughably behind a lot of other parts of the world, especially when you get outside of the metro areas. You think it's, people laugh at even our metro internet speeds in the U.S., but you go to the country, like where my parents are, and it's like, yeah, this doesn't even qualify barely qualifies for broadband as far as the rest of the world is concerned. So we definitely have some work cut out for us there. But it's just been a really intriguing couple of weeks. We've had this Apple stuff, Google, and then GAConf, GDC. It's just been a really eventful week. Really eventful. There was a couple of announcements. Oh, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 coming out in 2020, theoretically. I've wanted to cover, and this is hopefully going to get me incentivized to cover this on the channel, because the original, the Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines was this first-person shooter that came out right around the same time as Half-Life 2. I think it might have even beat Half-Life 2 to market by like a week. And I was so hyped for Half-Life 2, but I was really intrigued about this Bloodlines game. I eventually did get it, and the problem is the PC I had at the time was barely able to run it well enough. Like, I could run a couple of the early areas, but once things got really hectic and crazy later on in the game, I actually had to use cheats, not because it was hard per se, but because my computer was running like the game was running like ass, and the frame rate was so bad that I couldn't properly control it very well, especially if I had a whole bunch of enemies or a giant boss creature. And so I just really wasn't able to do it without a little bit of assistance. But that, there's so many things that kind of come out of modern role-playing games, especially action role-playing games, that you could kind of trace back to. And it was a really neat game. So that was one of the GDC announcements that I recall seeing that struck my interest. So I may, either on Mixer or just a spotlight video, have to show you guys a little bit of the original Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. So very cool, that's coming out at some point. Channel, we're just under 1,500. We're, 1,497. So we're just like 3 away. I was hoping I could say we hit 1,500, but we're not quite there yet. Thank you to all the people that have been contacting me on Twitter and retweeting and liking and following, and to those who have discovered the YouTube channel. Thank you guys for all the support with that. Again, if you are a developer, I am definitely interested. If you guys are looking for somebody to consult with on game accessibility, you have questions, you want to do some consulting, you want to do some beta testing, you want to do whatever, something like that, get a hold of me via direct message on Twitter or through YouTube, or if you got my card at GAConf, hit me up on email. You can go to illegallyscited.com. I'll have more info there. But yeah, anyway, I think that'll about do it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79. You can follow me on Mixer, mixer.com/BGFH. Of course, you can go to illegallyscited.com for all kinds of other stuff illegally cited. The usual YouTube fare, like and subscribe and do all that stuff. And hope you guys enjoyed the video. Follow me in the usual places, and until next time, I'll chat with you guys again later.